Ever wondered how much money a squirrel can make in a diving suit? No? Just me? Okay. Well, my guess is that she is making millions of dollars.
And this is for my submarine, Matilda!
I know it sounds exaggerated, but think about it. She's a Texan squirrel living underwater, doing high-tech science experiments, inventing gadgets, practicing karate, and somehow finding time to skydive. All this costs money. On top of that, she's got a massive tree dome, which obviously is worth a few $100,000. So is Sandy secretly rich? Is she funded by some shadowy surface world organization? Or is she just living paycheck to paycheck and hiding it really well? Well, it's a mix of genius-level income and sky-high expenses. Let's start with what we know for sure. Sandy Cheeks isn't an ordinary squirrel. She hails from the great state of Texas, which she never lets you forget, even underwater. But Sandy isn't in Bikini Bottom to flip some Krabby Patties. She's a scientist and inventor with a knack for turning wild ideas into reality. Her underwater tree dome is a technological marvel, complete with air filtration systems, climate control, and a fully functional lab. Only someone with serious engineering chops could design something like that, let alone maintain it at the bottom of the ocean. She's also an inventor, and Sandy's gadgets aren't your run-of-the-mill contraptions. We're talking about jetpacks, teleportation devices, and even a robot that mimics life. And all of that requires major funding, right? But where's the money coming from? Her inventions suggest she's not just tinkering for fun. In my opinion, she's pushing the boundaries of underwater science. But let's not forget her combat skills. Sandy is a karate master who regularly spars with SpongeBob, and she takes her training seriously. If there's a market for karate lessons in Bikini Bottom, Sandy could easily corner it. However, Sandy's talents don't stop there. She's an adventurer through and through.
What's going on? Well, we're free falling from 114,000 feet, and we're gonna land on that itty-bitty target.
Whether she's skydiving, surfing lava waves, or battling giant sea creatures, Sandy isn't one to back down from a challenge. These exploits might seem like hobbies, but they could also hint at sponsorships or funding from parties interested in her research and daring feats. So, Sandy's got quite the resume. Officially, she's a scientist, an inventor, and an all-around genius. So, here's what we can piece together. Sandy doesn't seem to work for anyone in Bikini Bottom. She's almost definitely being funded by surface world organizations. Think about it, her tree dome is an insane feat of engineering, with air filtration, water barriers, and all the tech to keep a squirrel alive in the ocean. That's not DIY Home Depot level stuff. Someone's gotta be paying for it, and it's likely big science grants or even government contracts. And let's not forget her expenses. The tree dome itself, that's essentially an underwater house meets laboratory. If you've ever tried maintaining a saltwater aquarium, multiply that by, a billion, and you've got Sandy's setup. And we also need to factor in her personal lab equipment, microscopes, robotics, and who knows what else she's hiding in that tree. Oh, and her hobbies. Karate lessons with SpongeBob, totally free. But repairing all the broken equipment from their overzealous sparring sessions? Yeah, that probably adds up. On top of that, one of the biggest challenges for any terrestrial mammal living underwater is importing supplies from the surface. Sandy is a squirrel, which means she needs things that aren't naturally available in Bikini Bottom, like fresh acorns, certain building materials, or even Texas-style barbecue sauce. Because, let's be real, she probably misses it. Shipping goods from the surface to an underwater habitat must be outrageously expensive. Whether it's paying for specialized delivery services or smuggling her favorite snacks, there's no way this comes cheap. And don't even get me started on the logistical nightmare of waterproof packaging for delicate items. Sandy is the only character in Bikini Bottom who wears a full spacesuit. That thing isn't just for fashion, it's a custom piece of gear designed to keep her alive underwater. Just to give you an idea, the newest NASA spacesuit costs around $1 billion, and the spacesuits used in the 1974 Space Shuttle program were worth around $15 to $22 million. Now, think about the upkeep. Her suit likely requires regular maintenance, repairs, and maybe even upgrades. What happens if SpongeBob accidentally tears it during one of their adventures, or if the air supply system malfunctions? Replacing or fixing something so specialized probably costs more than what the average Bikini Bottomite makes in a year. And if she has multiple suits for backup, that's an even bigger expense. And, you know, science isn't all breakthroughs and eureka moments. Sometimes things blow up, literally. Sandy's experiments don't always go as planned. Remember that time she built a rocket ship and SpongeBob and Patrick turned it into a disaster?
Oh, it sure looks a lot like home.
Failed experiments are a hidden expense no one talks about, but they add up fast. From replacing destroyed equipment to cleaning up the mess, every mishap is money out of Sandy's pocket. Plus, there's the cost of insurance. Sandy probably has to pay a fortune for some highly specialized underwater policy that covers lab explosions and rocket ship malfunctions. In the real world, insuring high-risk scientific research facilities and experimental technologies can cost anywhere from $50,000 to $200,000 annually, depending on the scale and complexity. Given the level of chaos Sandy often deals with, her policy is probably on the higher end of that spectrum, if not more. She is also a karate champ and a fitness enthusiast, which means she needs to stay in peak physical condition. That's not free. There's her diet, and then there's the gear, karate uniforms, protective pads, and the occasional replacement of whatever she accidentally karate chops into oblivion. When you put it all together, Sandy's expenses go way beyond the obvious. Between the cost of importing surface world necessities, maintaining her custom equipment, and funding her wild hobbies, it's clear she's got a lot on her plate. The real question is, how does she balance it all? Is her income enough to cover these hidden costs? Or is she just one big lab accident away from financial disaster? Well, one idea is that Sandy's Texas roots come with a very deep pocket. I think that Sandy comes from a wealthy family back on land. Oil tycoons, ranching moguls, or maybe even billionaires with a fondness for science projects. I mean, she is from Texas, and they say everything's bigger there, including, apparently, bank accounts. Think about it, her tree dome is pristine and looks like it was custom built, not something she cobbled together with spare parts. Plus, Sandy seems pretty relaxed about money. She's never shown stressing about bills or funding. It's as if her family's money gives her the freedom to pursue her scientific passions without worrying about how to pay for it all. But wait, if she's so rich, why would she leave Texas in the first place? She might be the black sheep of her family, carving her own path underwater. Or maybe she just thought Texas was too small for her big brain and even bigger ambitions. I mean, what if Sandy isn't self-made or funded by family at all? She could be backed by a shady corporation or a government agency. She is probably a secret agent, or at least a top-tier researcher for a private company funding her experiments. Her tree dome could be part of a larger underwater research initiative. She's collecting data for pharmaceutical companies, studying marine life. Another possibility is that she's testing military tech for underwater environments. I would say that her inventions are way too advanced to be a solo project. Think about it. Who builds a rocket ship for fun? This theory explains how she affords everything. She's got endless grants, contracts, and maybe even a cushy paycheck for her services. But it also opens the door to some darker implications. Sandy's financial backers might not be the benevolent research institutions we'd like to believe. If you look at it from a different angle, you will notice that her advanced inventions don't just scream scientific curiosity. They're the kind of tech that could easily have military applications. Maybe Sandy's tree dome is a secret research outpost for surface world governments, testing classified technology in Bikini Bottom. Or what if she's secretly working with plankton? Now, hear me out. Sandy's inventions are cutting edge, and plankton has always been desperate to steal the Krabby Patty formula. Could the two be in cahoots? Maybe Sandy has been selling her tech to plankton under the table for a hefty profit. They could have ended up on a deal like this. Plankton funds Sandy's more ambitious experiments in exchange for gadgets to help him in his endless battle against the Krusty Krab. Sure, she might not agree with his methods, but science isn't cheap, and moral lines get blurry when money's involved. Of course, this theory would explain a lot about how Plankton's schemes have gotten increasingly elaborate over the years. Could Sandy be the secret mastermind behind some of his more creative plans? And if so, how much is she charging him for her services? Or maybe, just maybe, Sandy is a full-blown business mogul. As the CEO of her own tech empire, she is quietly running the most successful startup Bikini Bottom has never heard of. Here's how it works. Sandy invents groundbreaking tech, rocket propulsion systems, water-to-air filtration devices, even karate robot suits. She then licenses these inventions to the surface world or sells them directly to clients like the Bikini Bottom military, if such a thing exists. But if that's true, why isn't Sandy flaunting her wealth? Maybe she reinvests every dime into her research, or maybe she's hiding something. Could Sandy be quietly building her empire only to reveal her financial dominance when the time is right? Alright, I need to stop yapping and give some realistic estimates. If Sandy Cheeks were a real person, what career paths might align with her skill set and lifestyle? The obvious comparison is with a research scientist or engineer. Scientists working on cutting-edge technology or environmental projects can earn anywhere from $70,000 to over $200,000 annually, especially if they're at the top of their field. With Sandy's groundbreaking inventions, she'd likely fall into this elite category. But Sandy's career is more multifaceted than most. As an inventor, she'd also be comparable to tech entrepreneurs. Think Elon Musk or other innovators whose patents and products generate substantial wealth. If Sandy's teleportation devices and jetpacks made it to market, she could easily join the ranks of multimillionaires. Her karate skills open yet another income avenue. Martial arts instructors earn a respectable living, with some top-tier trainers pulling in six figures. If Sandy's teaching or performing, she's adding another revenue stream to her impressive portfolio. And let's not forget her sponsorship potential. Extreme athletes and adventurers often secure lucrative deals with brands, which could translate to clamshell endorsements in Bikini Bottom. Put it all together, and Sandy is the underwater equivalent of a scientist, inventor, athlete, entrepreneur, which means she's combining the earnings of all these careers into one fascinating package. Now, to give you some exact numbers, marine biologists working on specialized research projects can make anywhere from $50,000 to $100,000 annually. Inventors? That's a whole other ballgame. Depending on the success of her inventions, royalties could land her anywhere between $100,000 to a few $1,000,000 per year. And if she's working under a government contract or for a private research company, her salary might start at six figures but could easily climb higher, especially given the uniqueness of her work. Now, let's talk about expenses. Because Sandy's lifestyle isn't exactly low maintenance, if we compare her tree dome to maintaining an underwater research station, the costs could be astronomical. Real-world underwater habitats like NASA's Aquarius Reef Base cost millions annually to maintain. Even on the conservative side, Sandy's tree dome might cost $500,000 a year just for upkeep. Then there's her lab equipment. High-tech gadgets, robotics, and scientific tools don't come cheap. A well-equipped lab could easily add another $100,000 to her annual budget. And karate may be free, but repairing broken lab equipment after sparring with SpongeBob, that's an ongoing expense we can't ignore. But hold up, Bikini Bottom isn't exactly the real world, is it? The currency here seems to be dollars, and the cost of living fluctuates wildly depending on who's writing the episode. For instance, Krabby Patties are sold at prices ranging from a few cents to a few dollars. If we estimate that the cost of goods and services is relatively low compared to our world, Sandy's expenses might not be as crazy as they seem. On the other hand, she's importing surface world tech and materials, which could significantly inflate her costs. So let's assume Sandy's income adjusts proportionally. Even in Bikini Bottom terms, she's likely earning far more than the average fish and definitely more than Squidward's clarinet salary. Taking everything into account, here's a realistic estimate. Sandy could be earning anywhere between $200,000 and $1 million annually, depending on how many income streams she has. If she's cashing in on patents and royalties, her income could push her closer to the high six or even seven figures. But if she's relying solely on research grants or a government salary, she's likely sitting comfortably in the mid-six-figure range. However, when you subtract her massive expenses, tree dome maintenance, lab upgrades, and whatever SpongeBob accidentally destroys, it's possible Sandy's take-home pay is far less impressive. She might be living what we call science poor, where every penny she earns is reinvested into her work. At the end of the day, Sandy's wealth isn't just about money. Her real riches are her intellect, her resourcefulness, and her relentless passion for science. So what do you think? Is Sandy secretly a millionaire, or is she just an underwater Einstein with a lot of bills to pay? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. So we've explored Sandy's income sources, debated fan theories, and even compared her career to real-world counterparts. But what about Plankton? How does someone who runs a failing business afford his endless schemes, elaborate gadgets, and giant robots? I've got a whole video breaking it down for you. Click the on-screen video to explore Plankton's finances.